Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Aunties, where the group chat comes to life and conversations get real and nothing, absolutely nothing is off limits. So if you are here for laughs, the truth, or even some perspective, you are right where you exactly need to be. I am Key, one of the hosts, and I'm here with my co-hosts Jay and Joe, and we are ready to dive in. So, all right, y'all. Today, we are talking about something kind of layered, if you will. Black excellence. We love to say Black excellence. We post it, we hashtag it, we celebrate it. But what does that really mean? What happens when we can't blame society anymore? Let's talk all about it. And it's not just because barriers don't exist. They absolutely do. We know they exist. But what about examining agency over your own life? All right, you ready to talk about it?
Let's talk about it.
All right. But in alignment with this week's episode, I want you to sing a lyric that represents what Black excellence means to you. Who wants to go first?
The song is Young, Gifted, and Black by Nina Simone. So I picked this song because she talks about affirming to be young, to be gifted, and Black. That the world is not our problem to solve. So there's opportunities out there for us to go and for us to go out there and grab them and let's get them. So Young, Gifted, and Black was my song that I chose.
I don't like you. She stole my song as a number one.
But I have backups. That's what you can do.
Well,
You can have the same song for a different reason.
No, just fell in line with what we was going to be talking about today. So that was the song I chose. I didn't have any lyrics behind it. It was just a song.
all right. Well, I'll give you mine. And you
Okay.
know how I love to sing, but this one I don't have to sing because it is by Londrell, and it's called Vibrating Higher. So I've been raising my vibration, yoga meditation, just sticking to the basics, living in a matrix. It's cynical and crazy. I've been swimming in amazement, writing all these verses, reversing all my curses, walking in my purpose and doing it on purpose. I'm sure, I'm certain, I'm pure, not perfect. I rise in service. And there's much more to it. One of my favorites, I was bumping that. It's all of 2020, and it's called Vibrating Higher. And the reason why I picked that song is because I think that's a great foundation to trying to be Black and excellent.
I love it.
What does Black excellence mean for you guys? We all know that it's subjective. It means different things to different people. But you know what? I'll give you mine. To me, it's the embodiment of high achievement, integrity, resilience, and overall impact by Black people, often in the face of systemic barriers. That's my definition.
I would add on it perseverance, not letting anything stop your goal, your get up and go attitude. I think, to your point, it's very subjective. So it's like, what's your value? What's your moral compass? What does that look like to you? What is that picture for you? Is it how you walk out the house every day and carry yourself with your head held high, not letting the outside world bring you down and all those kinds of things? So I think it's how it's a mental thing and it's a physical thing. I can add emotional too.
It is because the pressures of excellence, you always having to be twice as good to be accepted, the degrees, the titles, being polished in public as well as around family and friends. That all plays a role in how people feel or how Black excellence is looked at.
By some. I think historically, for sure, it meant overperforming to your point and being twice as good. I think that systemic barriers are absolutely real, as I mentioned earlier, but they do not fully determine outcomes. Do y'all agree or disagree?
No, I agree with that.
Sorry, say that again. I'm sorry.
Systemic barriers are real, but they don't fully determine outcomes.
They don't. I still think you are the ownership of your destiny, right? So I think if you do all the things that you can to the best of your ability and know that the work that you've put in, if you get there or don't get there sometimes, don't let that deter you. You have to keep going and you may have to pivot, you may have to move and shape in a different way, and that's okay.
I think that the racial wealth gap definitely exists, but I also think that people lean on that too much and use it as an excuse as to why they can't achieve wealth. Do y'all agree or disagree?
I agree.
I agree with that.
I'll go back to the same response. You choose your destiny. You are the navigator with the good Lord up above or whoever your higher power is. and how you get to your end goal and what financial success looks like for one may not be the same for others.
Absolutely. We have redlining, and even though historically that
They
has been a thing to some degree today, we have redlining, so you couldn't buy in certain areas. We have employment discrimination that definitely happens. We have unequal school funding, especially if you live in an area that's less affluent. All of these document long-term impact on our community, but there's a personal decision that one has to make and personal habits and also making sure that you can develop certain networks and have certain disciplines where you can overcome those challenges. And we
Mhm.
know this to be true because others have overcome those challenges.
Yeah.
So I still think that there are far too many of us that use it as an excuse. And then I also think that not enough of us that have overcome those challenges talk about how they did it to share so that others can.
And so for those that are using the excuse, and for some that may not even be using it as an excuse, but just not doing anything, they're also not, to me, out reaching out, exploring, having a level of curiosity to cross over that barrier. They just going with the flow, if you will. So you have the ones that say, these are the things that are stopping me. You have the ones to me that are just going with the flow and just riding the rails. And then you
Mhm.
have those who are doing the thing, right? The ones that's in that middle, what are they doing to be? They may not agree with the people who saying these things are still holding us back, but they're also not doing anything to get them to the next level. And they don't have the curiosity to do so, I think,
So when do you stop surviving and start owning and believing in Black excellence?
when you stop making them damn excuses.
Basically. And I also think too, like going back to your with the comment that you made, Janine, I think there's another bucket of individuals where they
Mhm,
do try,
mhm.
but it's like they got one foot in and one foot out. So they try, but the moment you don't do things or they don't get it done the way they perceive it to be done, the man is against me. Ah,
They
you
feel
gay.
defeated.
They fall
Yeah.
back into the first bucket. I had a person argue with me on Threads because somebody made a post that said, "Listen, if you're just meeting me, don't ask me." Like he basically said, "If you're meeting me, I hate when people we're in a networking event or maybe not, just in some place, and
Mhm.
someone says, 'What do you do and how much money you make?'" And he says, "I have a problem with that." So a lot of
Yeah.
people were chiming in, and she came in and she said, "Well, you're gatekeeping and there's some of us that wanna get to where you're at, so we ask these questions."
Mhm.
So I responded and I said, "There's nothing wrong with" some people find it a little bit intrusive, even though
Right.
it's so natural when someone's asked you, "What do you do?" But it is kind of intrusive because
What do you do? But not
yeah.
what
Right.
the what do you do?
But it's the how much you make. So and that's what I said. I said, but even sometimes it could be intrusive. So we going back on some people were saying when people ask me what I do, I say I do my thing. And I laughed at that because sometimes is some people can be it's intrusive. And sometimes there's elements of shame by what they do. It's a whole bunch of different variables at play.
Right.
But what I basically commented, I said, listen, it can be intrusive. And as
Mhm.
far as the money piece, a lot of that stuff is publicly available. So even if a person does disclose what they do, it's publicly available what salaries they can make. It was a lot of banter back and forth, or you
Right.
gatekeep just because you made it. You don't tell me your salary. And here's my take on that. That what I personally make, how does that benefit you knowing that?
Right.
If I say you can make in this role, you can make between X and X. I done
Mm.
gave you. I'm
Mhm.
telling you. But how does it benefit you to know what I personally make? And I think
It
that's a
doesn't.
generational thing. It
It does
doesn't. And because one can
because
argue,
that doesn't
well,
give you the skill set, that doesn't tell you what the
doesn't none of that.
qualifications are. That doesn't tell you just I can be making whatever amount of money because there are people who make money that's unqualified to make the money that they make sometimes.
For sure.
I believe it,
For sure.
right?
I don't think people asking how much you make, it dictates, unfortunately, how successful you are.
Mm,
So if you can make within this range and you're not making even at the beginning part of that range, to them, you're not successful because you didn't make it in that bucket.
that's one aspect of looking at it. But I guess my point is to me, it doesn't serve a good purpose for me, even me asking someone else, how much do you make? My question would necessarily, if I really wanted to know, oh, what do you do? Oh, you're pick a profession, right? You could be a neurosurgeon. I'm first of all, it's not within me. I'm not gonna say, well, how much you make? If I wanted to know, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do the research because it's publicly available, right?
Right.
And it's reasonable. And I might be off, but I'll have a general range. To
Yeah.
me, that's a little bit more viable if I wanted to aspire to do that. if
Mhm.
I wanted to be deemed as successful. But me to know what someone personally makes to me, it serves me no value. Now, one person may argue because I like to argue on both sides. Oh, but if they see another person of color, a black person, and says,
Mhm.
"Oh, I make X amount of money," it's inspirational to them. I understand that.
Inspiration is one thing, but
One thing.
the way it was prefaced was, "What do you do? How much you make? Because I wanna get there." That
Yeah,
doesn't get you there.
agree.
That
I
that's
agree.
not that has nothing to do with aspiration. That's like, to me, if you think by asking me that question is gonna get you to be what I am and do what I do and make what I make, you're sadly mistaken. That's the thing, whoever you was arguing with and whoever asked the damn question just missed the boat completely because that's
Mhm.
not it.
Yeah, no, I resolved to the fact that that person doesn't, even though I explained it in a way it's publicly available and what I make serves you no purpose. Like if I'm telling you can be in this range, I'm giving you the information that you have, that you know,
Mhm.
that now you can work with that. But you knowing what I personally make, it's other than a person being nosy, it makes it doesn't serve any value or benefit
Valuable.
you, and it doesn't certainly benefit me. That and there's no gatekeeping there because I'm giving you what you want. It's just again, back to our point, I'm giving you the information you want. It's not packaged up the way you want it. That's why that person said, "Oh, you gatekeep." So they went right back into that other bucket. You see? Instead of taking it and saying, "Oh, actually, I could say," and I actually gave a different way of perspective, even though it's subliminal. You can ask, what salary range for a role like that? There's different ways. Again, a lot of times if we don't package things up in the way that people want it,
Mm.
you wrong.
That goes back to the thing about accountability. They don't wanna be accountable. They want somebody else to do it. They want somebody else to get the information
Yep,
as opposed to going out and seeking it yourself, and to me, that is the difference. I think we the topic is about excellence versus accountability.
yep,
They don't wanna be accountable enough. They wanna say, "You are gatekeeping because
yep.
you won't give me the information that I'm asking for," instead of saying, "Oh, this is what you do? Great." Like you said, go out and do the research yourself because at the end of the day, once you figure out all the work that they had to do to get there, you may not wanna do that. So, you're good because I probably wouldn't even entertain the to chat.
That question shouldn't even been asked. If you're at a networking event, just you telling them what you do should be enough. Why are we talking about money right now?
Again,
We're just
it's
trying to get to know each other. Why are you asking me?
people are
That's
weird.
I know.
People are just weird, and I think they do weird thing. We know that, and when we're on social media, we get all different types of weirdness. I even said, "I think it's weird that you would ask someone," and she said, "I think it's weird that you would gay blah blah," and I'm just like, "All
Wow.
right." We can go down that, and you know me, I don't get phased by any. To your point,
Yeah.
Jay, I'm ready for it.
No.
So I think we do have systemic barriers, and it's part of the system, right?
Yeah.
So, for all intents and purposes, the system sets the terrain, but at the end of the day, we decide how we move across that terrain. We decide
Mhm.
it's really up to us. But I have a question for you. If barriers disappeared, if all the systemic barriers had disappeared tomorrow, who would still struggle?
I think people who don't take accountability, people who don't educate themselves, people who don't have discipline, people don't they would still struggle,
What's
in
your
my
take?
opinion.
No, I agree with her. If you're not gonna put in the work to know more about a profession or whatever it is you're trying to get into or whatever it is you want to be successful in, if you don't take the time or the patience to learn your craft.
And it's not, I'm just talking about any systemic barrier, whether it's buying a house, redlining, employment discrimination, unequal school funding. I'm talking about, and that's just a small piece of what we're up against as Black
Mhm.
people. I'm talking about if all those barriers disappear tomorrow, who is going to still struggle?
The people that don't put in the work,
I agree.
pretty
So
much.
again, excuses. Jay, I think
Sob
it's time.
stories, that's what I call them.
You call sad stories.
Sob stories.
So absolutely. So when we talk about like parts of how we define success comes from where what we were taught, what success looks like growing up. And I think a lot of beliefs, responsibility, discipline, and achievement were shaped early. Sometimes we didn't question until adulthood. So I think those things all come into play when you think about people being curious and wanting to know more and understanding accountability of
Mhm.
what they should be owning and having that, what you call it, agency over their lives and themselves and what they get to do, no barriers. It's still a choice that you make, right? So when you talk about then and now, career advice used to sound very clear: get a stable job, stay here, build security over time. Now the advice sounds very different. Multiple income streams, entrepreneurship, creative work flexibility. We have more options now, but also more decisions and uncertainty. So I would say, do you think we have more freedom today or just more responsibility to figure everything out ourselves?
That's a good question. Joe, what you think?
I think we have both if you make the time for it. We have the time. The information is there. It's just a matter of you putting in the work.
I think that, especially if you let social media tell it, you got a responsibility to figure the shit out. And I honestly think that there should be, because we're always saying figure it out. I don't think we do enough of that, the figuring it out piece, unfortunately. I think that, especially in the age of social media, we rely on sound bites and things that are quick, and we don't do enough research, and we just go run with it. So I think the onus is really truly on us to try to
Mhm.
figure it out.
You think about it back then, you didn't have, like you said, you didn't have the social media. You had to read the newspaper, you had to go to school, you had to whatever, go to the library, whatever you had to do to get the information that you needed
Yep.
to
Mhm.
have a intelligent conversation or to learn something new or whatever have you. You had to go and do the work.
Yeah.
So you do have definitely have the responsibility to figure it out. But the question is, are we actually being responsible in doing that? And I think the answer there is no.
Yeah. I said we don't do it enough. We don't do it enough. It's clear across the board. I say this, we live in a microwave society. I've been saying this forever. We want our answers now. I got to have it right now. And
Yeah.
I don't wanna take time. I don't wanna do
Yeah,
the research. That's
I
which is
agree.
unfortunate.
That is the unfortunate part about it. So we got to do more, people. Let's be more responsible. Let's own our own destiny. So
You only got one life. Live it to the fullest and not make excuses. You don't wanna
Mhm.
be on your deathbed talking about would have, I should have, I could have, I
oh,
no. Nobody who wants to do that? They said, I've read this a couple of times, you work in convalescent homes or old folk homes and stuff like that. Those people they're talking about the things they wish they would have been able to do. They wish. I think I might have shared this. I may or may not have shared this in an older podcast, but I was in St. Martin with my husband celebrating his birthday last year. And nope, 2 years ago. And he had turned 50 and he went to go play some kind of, we was on the beach and you know how they have different activities and whatnot. And he went to go play some kind of game. So this woman came over to me and she was like, "Oh, is that your husband?" Yeah. I said, "We're here celebrating his 50th birthday." And she sat back and the look on her face, and she was an older woman, much
Mhm.
older. And she says, "Oh, 50. I wish." She was turning 80.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, "The things I would have done differently." And there was an element that looking at her face, there was so much regret. She was always she was happy to talk to me, and then it just went to, she said, "The things I would have done
wow.
differently to get
Wow.
those years back."
Yeah.
So why are we making excuses?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you probably get a lot of that from somebody in that age category,
Absolutely.
unfortunately.
I never wanted that to I do not want that to be me. Do
No,
everything you say you're gonna do, even in the face of fear. What you got to lose? Half the people you run with ain't doing shit anyway. Let's go. Let's do it.
So I got a question then. Can personal accountability and systematic injustice both be true at the same time?
It is. It absolutely is. We see it all the time. You have to be personally accountable. We know that there's a lot of systemic barriers that the common denominator that each of us have is can't let that hold you back. But it's up
yeah.
to you to make the changes. It's up to
Mhm.
you to traverse that crazy terrain that you're on with all the barriers ahead of you and not use as an excuse talking about the man is holding you down. We know the man is holding us down. We absolutely know that. It's a fact. We don't gotta let him. We don't have to. But it's up
No.
to us to believe that.
I guess so. Even though there's a systematic wall and there's a personal ceiling there, Black excellence to us or to anyone shouldn't be, it's not perfection. So it's resilience plus responsibility. And at some point, you have to ask, am I fighting the system or am I avoiding doing the work?
Well, I think you're
That-
fighting the system, but if you're avoiding doing the work while fighting the system, where's gonna
We
get
ain't
you?
getting nowhere.
So with that, the system can be unfair and you still have room to improve. Accountability is not betrayal. It's your power. So you have to put in the work if you want to see change. You can't
Absolutely.
let these barriers hold you back. No more excuses.
Absolutely. So
100%.
alright, Honey's Court in session, let's go.
Welcome to Auntie's Court. Court is now in session.
Alright, court is now in session. Auntie's providing the case of the people versus disinformation. Today's case in the matter of social media versus sovereignty. The charge is that foreign operatives are often impersonating Black women online. They're
Mhm.
influencing conversations, they're shaping narratives, and potentially suppressing political engagement. Let's run the tape.
I want to understand how foreign adversaries or foreign operatives could be playing in our social media ecosystem. And I want to read 2 tweets that stopped me in my tracks. So the first tweet said, "Let's be real, our hair is always political." That's a comment I can actually relate to. The second tweet, "Power to the people. We have to grow up. We have to wise up. We don't have any other choice this time but to boycott the election. This time we choose between 2 racists. No one represents Black people." Who wrote those tweets? As Russia Internet Research Agency in the 2016 election. Black women in the community.
Real Black women from America.
Yes, from America, who study disinformation, started to realize that there were these accounts that just didn't speak quite right. And oftentimes the content that the Russians would put out would just be expressing pride in their identity and, again, pretending to be Black women. So they would just kind of repurpose this content. But then every so often, they would put in a political post. And it would be intended to suppress the vote around the 2016 campaign. And they would do this on the right also. So there would be a lot of posts expressing general pride in living in Texas.
So you think that you're maybe executing agency, you were inspired by a post and it resonated with you, but you're actually further advancing a propaganda mission by a foreign government.
Right. So disinformation campaigns are sort of a subversive form of propaganda where the identity of the actor is the thing that is inauthentic, even if the opinions themselves are literally plagiarized from real members of the community who do, in fact, believe these things. And that's what makes it so insidious. So it creates, again, a majority illusion. It reinforces that large numbers of people hold this belief. It was voter suppression. We shouldn't vote. Nobody represents us in this election. And some of these accounts had hundreds of thousands of followers.
So, the formal charges say we are examining identity manipulation, narrative distortion, and psychological influence disguised as community. The question is, are we even forming our own opinion?
That'll be a defense. So the prosecution is up.
The sad part about this is there's documented proof that there was a group or organization created to do these fake accounts or to create them. And all it did was, the primary goal of it was to increase division, distrust, and conflict within Black women or the Black community in the United States. And just around election, and I just can't understand why none of this has been fought or brought up at all. The fact that they were even able to do that and there's no repercussions behind it is just beyond me. It shouldn't have never happened, and the fact that it did and no one is saying anything about it is sad. And we really do need, I agree with the woman, we really need to boycott the election at some point. It has to happen now because they're doing everything humanly possible now to eliminate Black voters, period. And the fact that they did this to do all this within our community and put us against each other, that needs to stop.
Well, I think what you just said played into exactly what they did. They wanted to suppress our vote. So when you say boycott, that's exactly what they wanted. So for all the reasons you said. So you just played into exactly what they did. Well, let me hold my reserve. Jay, I think you might want to come to court.
Judge and jury. Listen, knowledge is power. Each individual person has agency over themselves to go out and secure the information to be sure that the information that they are consuming is accurate. So if they chose to take what was presented in front of them and run with it, that is on the individual, not the person sending the message.
So that's a great defense argument. I'm going to say, look, this is dangerous.
It is dangerous.
But I also agree that you should have agency over what you look at in internet. Far too many of us, let me take 2 steps back. It's dangerous because these accounts feel like community. But let me ask you a question. When you going through social media, how many times have you liked something because something resonated well with you? But did you actually go to their profile and see where it was created? Be honest.
Depending on the information I'm looking at.
You really went to the
make me
profile?
go to research.
You went to the profile not just to look at the profile, to see where it was created, because you can do that. To actually see where's this count coming from, what state they're in. You actually did that?
So are we talking about the clip? Because when you sent us the clip to look at.
I ain't talking about that's my question.
I'm giving an example of what I would have done. What I did was I went and researched articles pertaining to what was talked about in the clip.
Okay.
And there is documented proof on it.
I agree with that. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
What's in the clip is accurate. That's not
Mhm.
the debate, and that's not my question. My question is, how often have you gone on social media and liked something just because it resonated with you? You liked it.
I liked
Turn
it.
and then you turn around
And
and
go research it some more.
no, that's not would you let me get my question out? How often have you gone on social media and you find something that resonated with you and you liked it, and then you turned around and went to their profile, but not only go to the profile just to view the profile, go
Mhm.
and see where that account was originated.
No,
Was it
not all the
that's
time I've done that.
not all the time or any I mean, let's be honest
I've
here.
done it a few times, but now I don't do it. That's not the majority.
So
I
you
just look to see if the information they're putting out there is accurate.
only reason why I'm challenging it is because Jenny, how often you have gone to see where it
I
was created?
I have never gone to see where the account was created. I do go and look at the profile pictures.
Mhm,
Well, first of all, I always read the caption. I'm not
Mhm.
like something just because it's a video that I
mhm,
see. So I always read the caption. I have
Mhm.
never gone to see where the account is originated from. I do go look at for consistency of what they're posting, but I don't follow. My algorithm does not show me a lot of this political BS because I don't subscribe to it. I don't engage in it. So the things that I do engage
Mhm.
in and follow, I feel comfortable enough to know that I'm not falling down a rabbit hole or a trap of something and liking
Mhm.
something that's totally against what I believe. To answer your question, I have never gone to look to see where the account was originated.
so that's why I said, "Let's be honest,"
Mhm.
because it's one thing to go to a profile, but it's another thing
Mhm.
to actually go to see whether the account is where they live at. Texas?
Mhm.
I normally do that. I will
Too.
do that part, yes. When you go on their profile, it tells you where they're from.
It's
Give an
extra
example. I see something that I like, and I may want to go and frequent that store, or go to the store, or go to wherever they're
we ain't talking about
located
a
to
store.
get
I'm talking
something.
about stuff. It's not right or wrong. This is not a right or wrong thing. My point is that most people don't. And I don't generalize, but let's be clear.
Mhm.
We ain't doing that shit. Let's just be honest. We're not going to see
Mhm.
you go to some person's profile, but when you
Mhm.
click on their profile, immediately it don't tell you to stay. There's a couple of extra steps you have to take to get to where the account is originated.
Right, if you're
Just
not looking to consume something from them, like you said, "Joe, you're gonna see where their
a
shop is
link,
at,"
that's
you're not
different.
gonna know
And
what
Because
location.
that
right.
tells you what state they're in, so
No,
yeah.
no, but forget the link. The link is on the profile, but that's not where you find where the account was originated.
Right,
And
and I
most of
mean
us are
yeah,
not doing that. In
right.
this clip here, it's dangerous because Imma get on something that you said, Janine. You say you don't do the political thing. I get it. It's what they're describing, it ain't a political account. What they're literally doing, if you go back and you take your time and listen to the clip or even do more research, what they're doing, they could be talking about hair. They could be
Yeah,
talking about anything that's Black woman related, fashion, gardening. They put all that crap out so it feels like community. It feels safe. You like
right.
what they're doing. And then one day, all of a sudden, they talking about Trump. One day, all of a sudden, they
Mhm.
talking about Biden. Then they go
Mhm,
right back into the hair. And
mhm,
so it
Mhm.
feels it's strategic. And that's why it's dangerous. And
yeah,
most of us, if we
Mhm.
like, to your point, I do the same thing you do, Jay. I go through their page and see if it was consistent. 9 times out of 10, I may have missed that, put all this fashion and missed that political shit.
mhm,
So now we're following these pages
right.
and they're nothing but for all intents, like a bot. It's
Yeah,
Mhm.
not real.
yeah,
It's a collective and it's this foreign adversaries and they're doing
mhm,
this to change our minds. So if you
yep,
like all those things, they start infusing that political stuff. To your point, Joe, you fed right into it because you said, we need to boycott the election.
yeah,
That's exactly what the
yeah,
one in this reference, exactly what they were talking about. They
yeah,
wanted us to not vote.
yeah. I have conversations like that with one of my I don't have he pretty much brings it to my attention, right? But he talked about something very similar where they have these conversations and these banters and everybody jumps on the bandwagon and they join in, they become this large community. They start sending out misinformation. And him and I kind of had like not a necessarily a joke about it, but we chatted about it. We talk about do you watch Bridgerton?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you know about the person who writes the newsletter and
Yep.
send the newsletter and all that kind
Mhm.
of stuff.
Mhm.
And we were saying that if the person that was spewing a lot of Trump promotion stuff and as an example, other side, now he's no longer on that side. We was like, well, now he should flip the script and start doing the opposite. If that's what he's gonna do. If he
Mhm.
was doing it this way, why won't he do it that way? But it's all this information that's being sent out there to influence and or encourage other people to either follow. To me, that's how some of these outside of the traditional way of incorporating people to do certain things I don't wanna say what you call terrorists, what for lack of a better description
Yeah.
right now. That's how they pulled them in.
That's absolutely how they pull them in. Absolutely. I think the bigger question that I have, and the reason why I posed that question earlier is, do you think that social media has shaped your political thoughts more than you realized?
I won't say social media. I started following political once Clinton came into office. That was my first time voting when I voted for Bill Clinton. I do follow political articles and I look at the news and I pay, but I don't look at it all the time. Now that this individual is in office, I tend to look at not just what I see on social media, but I am also reading and looking at the news and seeing what's being said. So when we was talking about this is not me just jumping on the bandwagon. The fact that an organization was created to do this and nothing is being said about it, it is scary and it shouldn't have happened. And the fact that it did happen, there needs to be repercussions for this. Someone needs to stop it or someone needs to do something for it not to happen going forward.
It's still happening now,
I know it's still happening and it needs to stop. But
So
when do we jump in or when do we as individuals put our foot down and say, this has to stop? How far do we take this?
so that would mean that there needs to be social media needs to be regulated, and we all know that it's not, which is why these things happen. Because what they did is not illegal. They just impersonate. It's not. I mean, I ain't no lawyer, nothing like that. But they're it's not like
The
impersonating.
freedom, right? It's the freedom of
It's a
speech,
freedom of speech.
right, and
It's a
whatever.
freedom of speech. They're impersonating Black women as a collective, right? And again, when I'm saying making these statements, it's not that I'm agreeing with what they're doing. Make no mistake, I'm not. I'm just telling you the other side of the coin. But there needs to be a personal accountability. Again, I go back. We need to stop believing every fucking thing we see on social media. We need to stop it. We need to question it.
Yep.
We can't go off a clip. We are, and I get passionate about it because it is annoying. It is frustrating. It could be any, I don't care what it is. It could be the 50-50 argument versus Obama versus whatever the spectrum is. We take that and a lot of us run with it and we do not do our research. So there are a million, whether this is an organization or an individual or there's a lot of what I shared is going on across the board for a lot of different things. It's still happening because there's no social media regulation. Now,
I mean, you see it in person too, not to cut you off, but we see it in person. Like we see it with the Black Lives Matter, with the marches and stuff. We have people infiltrating the marches, pretending to be allies and causing more problems for our peaceful marches that we were out there doing versus, so it happens not just in social life.
It's a real life. And that's why we're saying social media, but I'm saying media as a collective, whether it's the news, because the news, they've been doing this for years, feeding us stuff on the news and we lap it right up. We eat that shit up, but they're feeding us what they
want us to know. Yeah.
There needs to be accountability on our end for us to have a level of discernment, do our own research. We don't do it. We take it and be like, oh, imagine how many people they done killed off and this person's dead. And it ain't dead, but you done went and done shared it. And that's a small piece of a bigger issue. We got to stop doing that. The other thing is I want to say, just to flip this on its head, why do you think they specifically targeted in this clip? Now I'm going back to the clip. Just that particular instance, an example. Why do you think they specifically targeted Black women to assimilate and become Black women? Create an account as if you're a Black woman. Why do you think that is?
I think as Black women, we're craving community, we're craving sisterhood, we're craving networking and support of each other and lifting each other up because we think we see enough of it. And quite honestly, I tend to agree a little bit. We don't. So if you see somebody forming these things that look like something that we want to see and have, they put it there.
I also think it's because Black women tend to argue with each other and go against each other. So that'd be the perfect plant to put in there for us to start coming at each other.
But was this one to put each other against each other or to?
Yes, it was. That's what these were creating. In the Black community, we tend to fight with each other more than anybody else.
This specific clip.
Was it to pull us together as a community underneath?
No, to separate us, to divide us. That's what the accounts were created for.
I'm talking about this particular
against
clip.
each other. Yes, based on the clip and based on the information behind it. That organization and what they were doing was purposely put out there for us to go against each other. And Black women or the Black community, period, even though they targeted Black women, we tend to argue with each other a lot more. Why you think with reality shows and stuff, what sells? The fact that Black women are going against each other and arguing and fighting all the time.
Yeah, I saw it a little bit differently. I'm not debating whether we can be combative on television and reality.
Mhm.
In this particular instance, because of this was done back in I think the 2016 election or the 2020, one of those 2 elections. This was coming. They were talking about this. I
Mhm.
think it was 2016, could have been 2020, go figure. But it was meant to suppress the vote. They
Yes.
knew that Black women vote at high rates. They know that we are influential in our households and we drive cultural conversations. So it was meant so that we would not go out and vote.
We would get everybody on the same page.
Get everybody on the same, so
Not
it's less of divisive, it's more of, "Hey, what they're saying," whatever propaganda they were putting
Mhm.
out, it was more of so they could be like, "Man, I ain't going man, we need to boycott," exactly what you said, "Boycott that,
Mhm.
I ain't voting." And what happened? And then who got in office? My point is, they know to a certain degree, and I'm not saying they didn't do these in Black men in communities or websites for Black men too. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure they did. They know we, in many instances, are majority as a collective. So whether we just use this one clip as an example, it targets Black women. I'm sure they probably, no, I don't want to say I'm sure. They likely were targeting them Black men sites or whatever too. Either way, if you influence Black people, you can influence an ecosystem to suppress the vote. Just saying. I feel like this was 2016 because I feel more people came out in 2020. I could be wrong. But the point being, and I guess the issue, if we want to do a verdict really quickly, and I think we all have the same thing, but is it the fact that these organizations are guilty because of serious manipulation, not guilty because of overstated fear? Or is it a gray area? Yeah, it's real, but it's not really dominant.
No, they're guilty.
I say they're guilty for their intent in what they did and the outcome. They succeeded in what they were going to do, but I still hold the people accountable for not doing their due diligence.
Look, people, disinformation is real, but equally your agency over your life and your brain and how you think is real. And discernment, although a lot of people don't exercise a lot of discernment or critical thinking skills, it needs to be a critical skill. So, as always, your growth is valid. Your journey is yours. It's never too late to choose yourself. If anything that we talked about got a little heated, a little spicy, but if it resonates with you, friend and tell a friend, share this episode. Do us a favor, subscribe. And if you have anything that you want to share with us, you can drop it in the comments. Alternatively, you can send us an email at NYAAPOD. So that's NYAAPod, the number 1 at gmail.com. We certainly appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
Peace.